call this meeting. Stand for a pledge, please. Okay, we do a roll call.
Okay, and when I call your name, if you could just say here or present. Committee Member Adams? Here. Committee Member Gorley?
Here.
Committee Member Jarvis?
Present.
Committee Member Parker?
Here.
Committee Member Reynolds?
Here.
Committee Member Woody said he would be absent tonight, and Chair Thorstad.
Here. Yes, I'm gonna lead this thing. I keep forgetting. Okay, open for public comment. Don't have any. What about online? Do we have anything online?
We do not.
Oh, easy. So if we don't have anybody,
You can just move on to introduction.
yeah, righty. So we're gonna welcome everybody and do member introductions and maybe say your name and how long you've been in Sweet Home.
Why don't you start as chair?
My name is Josh Thorstad. I'm a counselor and president pro tem, and I've been in Sweet Home for 7.5 years. Go ahead and pick.
Mike Reynolds. I've been in here for 50 some years. So graduated here. So from then on, a little before that. So yeah.
Lisa Gorley. I've been here for 6 generations.
Yeah.
Jeff Parker. We've been living in town 23 years.
Kristen Adams. I've been here about 55 years with the exception of a 10-year hiatus.
My name is Gary Jarvis, and I have lived in Sweet Home since October of 2013.
And my name is Jason Ogden, City Manager and Chief of Police, and I've been here since October of '97.
My name is Cecily Pretty. I'm the Deputy City Manager, and I've been here about 1.5 years.
Alrighty, so we need to select a vice chair. Anybody want to step forward for that?
So someone can volunteer or someone can make a nomination, which
Yeah.
will need a second and a vote.
I would volunteer.
Would someone like to second his nomination?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, congratulations.
Okay, so we'll move on to new business. And I believe Blair is going to go over Robert's rules and order of the mini meeting.
Sure. This is based on a presentation I gave to the council recently. I will pare it down and try not to talk too much, but the slides I've included have a lot more information than I plan on talking about, and you can all have a copy in case you want to know more. But Robert's Rules of Order is essentially just a way of running meetings to make sure that everyone is heard and that to kind of make everything more businesslike and rather than argumentative. So the intent is to provide some structure to the meeting to make it orderly and ensure that all can be heard. Next slide. All right, so first we'll talk about just a little introduction. We'll talk about roles and responsibility. Oops, I should have changed this slide. The meeting structure and process, types of motions, how public involvement works, and then a few common motions and any questions you might have. Next. First off, this is just a little bit of history. It was developed a long time ago. These are the most common rules for boards, anywhere from parliaments and legislative bodies of large numbers of people down to HOA committees. So just a common way of doing things. All in our charter, or in our council rules, it states that Robert's Rules of Order are to be implemented. There are various versions, and I don't know that anybody really wants to get really nitty gritty into the rules. And so I'm not going to, and I don't think you have to, but the idea is just to have some basic structure. And all city committees are supposed to kind of follow some basic structure for Robert's Rules of Order. Next. All right. The benefits are justice and courtesy for all, maintenance of order, consideration of one thing at a time. It keeps the discussion more orderly so that you're not, don't get whiplash going from one topic to another quickly. All sides gets heard. Everybody has input. Majority rules, but of course the minority is also heard, and their rights are protected. Next. So every body committee has a chair. In this case, that would be Councillor Thorstad, and the vice chair then is committee member Jarvis. The chairperson's responsibility is to follow the agenda and keep the meeting going, control the flow of the meeting by recognizing the people who wish to speak, and model courtesy and respect to all the committee. Committee members ask the chair to be recognized when they wish to speak. They address their comments to the chair rather than to each other. This kind of ensures that it's not argumentative, that it's more about the body working together rather than people debating each other. The staff are here and must follow the same rules and seek recognition from the chair. So the chair is just kind of the head and is deciding which mouth gets to speak at different times. All right, the meeting, typically our committee meetings follow this order. You have a call to order, roll call, approval and review of minutes, recognition of visitors and public comments, if there are any, if applicable. That's not a requirement. Old business, new business, committee business for the good of the order. That's a point where anyone can bring up any topic they think should be talked about, and then adjournment. Next. So in your committee meetings, the agenda should be followed. The agenda can be modified using Robert's Rules. So if there's something that you think should be on the agenda, there is a way to get it there. A motion is required for the advancement of most work. So if you want some decision to be made or some to gain some ground, you will need to make a motion that something be done. Debate is allowed on almost all motions. There are some things where there's no debate, but for most things, the intent is not to squelch anyone's comments or anything like that. Just everything has its time and place is the point. Agenda items are introduced as dictated by the agenda or the chair. When something is on the agenda, the only way to get past it is to postpone it, table it, or vote on it. Agenda items may include an initial staff report and time for question and answers with whoever made that report. And the chair then opens the floor for questions and discussion regarding that item. Next. At any time after a report is given, committee members may seek recognition by the chair to either ask for more details or make a motion on that agenda item. Typical motions might include move to approve as recommended, or move to table this item, etc. Anytime there's a motion, if there's no second for that motion, then the motion dies. You have to have at least one other person agree with you to even get it to a vote. If it's seconded, then the chair opens the floor for discussion on that motion only. The all other discussion ceases, and the discussion is only on whatever the motion was. Next. Those motions can be amended. You can move to amend the motion. That has to be seconded, and it can be debated. And a vote on the amendment must occur before discussion can resume on the original motion. And then after each committee member is given an opportunity to speak regarding the motion, the chair calls for a vote. Alternatively, if you think there's been too much talk on something, you can just say, call for the question, which forces a vote to determine if the vote on the motion will take place. So it's essentially just a vote to stop the discussion. All right, and then that process is repeated for each agenda item. So the main motions are, bringing any particular subject before the council or before the committee for its action. The main motions. All right, if there's another motion already before the group, you got to wait until that one's done. You can't bring up another one. And then some examples of motions. Someone could say, I move to recommend to the city council that this change to the city charter be sent to the voters in the next possible election. Or I move to request that the city attorney to research other municipal charters regarding blank issue. Next. There are also subsidiary motions. These are just motions that have to do with modifying that motion, the main motion. These can be things like tabling it or calling for the question, as I already mentioned, to close debate. You can have a motion to extend debate or limit that debate. We probably won't have any motion to refer to a committee since you are the committee. And you can make a motion to postpone a discussion item until a later time, another meeting. And then you can also amend a motion or postpone something indefinitely. Once something is postponed, then you need a 2/3 majority to bring that motion back. And then there's incidental motions that are just kind of housekeeping things. Point of order is used to bring the group's attention to some violation of procedure or a rule. You can appeal the decision of the chair if the chair decides something in running the meeting that you all disagree with. You can appeal that, and a majority would force it to go differently. You can also have a parliamentary inquiry. That's not really a motion, just a question of whether something fits within the rules. Point of information is a way to offer information that you feel is necessary for that motion or for what's going on. You can request a withdrawal motion, and you can object to consideration of a question. If there's a motion that's just you think is totally inappropriate and doesn't belong in the discussion, you can object to it. Next. And then renewal motions. If later you change your mind or something like, or want to bring something back that's already been talked about, you can move to reconsider. You can take something off the table if something was tabled before, or you can also bring something up and move to rescind it if you think that there's new information that wasn't known before of why everyone should change their minds. Next. And then there's just basic questions of privilege. These are just things that make everybody more comfortable, right? If you move to adjourn because you think the business is done or you're all just really tired, you can do that. A recess to have a temporary break. Point of privilege, bringing up something that's for the welfare of the group, like it's cold in here or it's hot in here. And call for the orders of the day is just basically encouraging everybody to get back to the agenda. Let's stick to the business. Next. All right, public. This is a meeting. These meetings are for you to work together. You are welcome to hear from the public if you wish, but this is not a meeting that is intended to be heard to hear from the public. It's not a public hearing. So there is likely to be time on the agenda for public comments, but it's not a requirement. You all were appointed to give your perspective to the city council. Your power is limited to just recommending things to the council, and so you're not required if you don't want to, if you don't have time, or if there's it doesn't matter what your reasons are. You're just not required to hear from people. But it's nice to, though, and so that's perfectly up to all of you. Residents should not expect to have any participation in the meeting beyond the public comment, and you should not expect any direct interaction with the committee. The audience can observe, but it's not we're not set up, and the meeting is not set up to have interaction from the audience to the committee. Robert's rules are not there to make things clear to the audience. They're there to help you run the meeting. And so whether the public or any audience members understand what's going on is kind of irrelevant. It's there for you to get things done. This is a list of common motions, and I won't go through all of these, but I'll have a copy sent out of this presentation sent out to all of you, so you can refer to it if you wish. And so we'll just skip past all that, and I'll take any questions that you might have.
You will be emailing all of those slides to everybody so that we have those for reference.
Yep.
Thank you, Blair.
Blair, for people who don't have this kind of thing in the past,
Mhm.
do you have it all on a cheat sheet on one page where people could see that?
I have some that I can send out.
That'd be great if they could have it in one sheet.
Any more questions? Right. So I think what we'll do now is we'll open up for discussion and just go what everybody's got ideas, and we can start taking notes. What do you want to do?
Well, I think the first important question, is there anyone who has not yet reviewed the charter prior to this meeting? Okay. So not a problem.
About half.
So you may want to give folks a little bit of time just to go through before you start discussion.
Okay.
And keep in mind, this is meeting one, so we do not need to make any decisions. We don't even need to get very far tonight necessarily. But if you do have ideas, staff is happy to take those. And if you need us to do some more research, come back with a report, have some discussion, this would be a good time to start that process.
So I guess while everybody's going over the actual charter, the mayor, did she give a letter? She wrote a little cheat sheet that you guys all have about the review committee and what the purpose is and some of the roles that we can do and talk about and the process and the recommendations and what the importance is. So you guys can read over that, and then if anybody's got any questions, they can ask that. Go for it.
The very first bullet point that she's got on here under 1A, mayoral role, term, appointment, et cetera. Being that the city council has already referred to the ballot measure to elect the mayor directly by the people. Will we be dealing with that, or is it appropriate for us to deal with that specific issue as well, or just the other issues surrounding it?
I think for right now, I think we have many meetings that we're going to need to do. I think we'll put that one on the back burner till the end. We have the election coming up, and we'll see what happens with the election, and we can address it. Yes. Blair, I do have a question. I was asked by, who was that? Councilor Bronson. Are we able to, with the charter, do anything about council rules?
The charter mainly just says that the council shall adopt rules. But the charter trumps any rules that the council passes. So if there are things that you think are so important that they should go in the charter rather than council rules, certainly the charter can be amended to include those things.
Okay, because I'm trying to find it right. So section 12 it says about vacancies in office generally. It's pretty vague on what vacancies and attendances. So I don't know if we can do something in there for attendance, or do we just give the council an idea, then the council, but I mean, it's been dead there before, so.
So you certainly can, I mean, this is in the charter now. I agree that this paragraph is a bit vague, and I've had lots of questions about what to do about council vacancies, specifically when it comes to lack of attendance. And in my reading of this, it's interesting because it almost makes it say that just absence from the city for a specified period of time. It's unclear whether that's physical absence, whether it's just missing meetings. Anyway, the point is it's not the clearest portion of the charter. The difficulty we get into with the vacancies is we need to make whatever you want to do, we'll definitely need to do, I'll need to do some research on what the consequences of that may be, because if this is something that could be used to remove a counselor from office, you're going to have, it's going to be a bigger lift trying to prove that and to go through that. So I would like to see more detail, but I'd also like to see something that actually could work, rather than something that the city would have to struggle to prove. But that's just something you might want to consider.
Josh, may I?
Go for it.
Yeah, in keeping with the same discussion, that is something that I was thinking about too. So the order of succession, as it were, is we have city council rules which cannot conflict with the charter, and the charter which cannot conflict with state law.
Mhm.
And so we probably, before we were to insert any kind of rules like that to declare something vacant because somebody didn't attend X number of meetings, that probably would fall first to where we'd have to do research into state law
Mhm.
to make sure that their rights are protected and that our charter is not infringing on their rights, having been duly elected.
Right.
Okay,
And
thank you.
to be clear, I don't think anyone expects the committee to do the legal research. So that's my job. So if it's something that you want to see in the charter, I will be taking a look at what's going on legally right now. If, for example, there was a case from Corvallis really recently, actually, an attempt to remove a counselor for interference in administration. And that's something that we need to be extremely careful with because it gets into free speech. And so we just want to make sure we're on good standards.
And that was primarily what my point was, Blair. Thank you, is that we don't want to be spinning our wheels and encroaching in territory that we don't have a right to do.
So that brings me to the question is, we actually are a member of the Council of Governments, and they specialize in this, and they have examples of each one of these language that we could adapt or adopt, whatever we want. And so typically when I've done something like this before, we start with number 1, number 2, and we go through it systematically. And we would invite a specialist from the Council of Governments to come and bring examples. And by systematically going through the charter, we would be able to know ahead of time which pieces we're covering at any given meeting, and they would know what pieces to prepare for us and give us examples for that. And I'm wondering if we're going to do that, because I think it would be in our best
In
interest.
terms of bringing in a consultant,
From the Council of Governments.
that
yeah.
had not been discussed previously, no.
Okay. And then the pattern of going from the beginning all the way through, so we know what we're going to discuss per meeting and break it down like that. Some might take longer than others, but I also feel like that if we have examples of what other cities are doing, and we can maybe at least 2, and then look at ours and say, okay, because we are not experts in language and contracts, and a simple word change can have huge ramifications, and we need to be cognitive of that. And like I say, we're paying for a service, and they need to be here maybe to help us.
On that note, I believe, I'm not sure about consultants, but the League of Cities does have a model charter. And the reason that's there is just to provide a baseline for cities to consider. And it's something that's been fully vetted and gone over, and they modify it on a regular basis to as the legal landscape changes. And so I'm certain we could get a copy to all of you.
Yeah, and I'm not. I was on the Council of Governments board, so we could reach out to them and have schedule something. But I do agree with you on having a role. But I have like 15 emails of people wanting. So if I could just get it on the record, we can always go back to it once we get to it. But also filling in time while everybody reads the charter. But yes, I agree.
Well, and if there's direction to structure it in that way that we go section by section, Councilor Thorstad, if you just want to provide staff with all the comments, we can then compile
Yeah.
them to what's relevant rather than.
Well, most of these came today, so I'm still reading through them myself.
Okay.
But yeah, so some of the bigger key issues, a lot of it's just wording and where to put it and changing lines from sections and stuff like that. So just going over some of it. But anybody else have anything?
I'd like to know, a bond, of $10,000, what, if that needs to be updated because this hasn't been done since 2014? Does it need to be a higher amount, and what's typical for that?
And we can bring that back next time. So just looking at the charter sections, what do folks feel like are a reasonable amount of chapters to tackle per meeting? And obviously some of those chapters are longer than others. For example, just looking through, I'm thinking 1 through 3 might be a decent chunk for the next meeting. But I'd love feedback from the committee.
Go ahead. You in your notes here, you want to go over section 1 or chapter 1 actually. Yeah. Section 1.
I have some notes that I wrote, and if you'd like, I can get a copy forwarded to you
That would be great.
as well. But what I did was I went over chapter by chapter of the things that I thought, and one of the first things that I observed in here is that is some housekeeping, that our chapters and subsections are horrible. They really are. I mean, when you go to chapter 3, for example, the first section is section 8. We don't have a section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of that chapter. It starts with, and so we've got a mishmash of outline types in here, and so that's one of the first things. But I have issue with once you see that what I have, and is there any way that you could forward that to her right now?
I just did.
Oh, okay. The section 1, I have a lot of things in there, as well as section 2 and or chapter 2 and chapter 3. And so I think, yeah, that one meeting, just even based on some of the observations that I have, that those first 3 sections would be plenty for a first time going through these things. Yes.
Do you need a motion for that or a second? Because I have no opposition to changing the section formats. I think it is formatted wrong.
In terms of a motion, a second to actually change the format,
No, to
or to-
have that for discussion
No, I think
later.
consensus is perfectly fine. So unless I'm hearing significant opposition, we'll just plan to do that. So if that's the plan moving forward, then I think what staff will plan to do is we'll obviously have our charter. We can do the model charter. We'll take a few other charters from perhaps similarly sized cities and maybe some other benchmarking so you can see similar language across. And then if anyone has their own comments that they'd like added to that, or if you receive public comments that you'd like us to address, please forward that to staff and we can put that together in a report so that we can have a robust discussion on the first 3 sections.
I actually have the Brownsville and Halsey charters, so I can email those to you already. Is there anything else? You want to talk about anything else?
Are there any other requests from committee members in terms of what they'd like to see when we bring that back for the side-by-side comparison?
I'm wondering if, because we're talking about language changes more than just punctuations and adding a line here or there, that if someone's looking at significant differences, would we be able to have this on the screen so we could see it live with the potential strikeouts and then the proposed language in other colors so we can see what that looks like? I think that would really help us all. Oh, and any kind of suggestions that we could have that ahead of time so that we could see that and think about it rather than doing it on the fly.
Yeah, I will try to have full packets to you out at least a week in advance, just because I know it's a lot of information to digest. And then you'll have time to ask any questions in advance of the meeting.
So I think like on chapter 3 with the elections, I think some of those sections are going to have to be changed based off of what the election happens. So I think like for the section like that, we can bypass, because I would hate to go over it and then go over it again. But I mean, it's section 8, section 9. Well, especially section 8, it could change. And the terms of office, but
Josh.
yeah.
So is it possible that the proposed ballot measure, is changing some language in the charter now, right, Blair?
So right now, the item that's on the ballot is only affecting Chapter 2, Section 3. So I would recommend that we not get too deep into that one at the next meeting, and we can revisit that based on what happens in May. But the other sections are definitely fair game for discussion at this
Yeah.
time.
I'm sorry, could you repeat what actually?
Yes, Chapter 2, Form of Government, Section 3, Council and Mayor.
Okay. That's the only language changes on the proposal.
Potentially,
Is
yes.
in there. Thank you.
Now, certainly you could discuss if you have an interest in changing term lengths, but right now the question of how the mayor is selected is what's on the ballot.
And I will just add to that that if there are, we can have the text of that amendment to you, certainly. But when that was drafted, there wasn't a overall look at the rest of the charter to see what else would be affected by that change. And so as you're reviewing the existing charter, it probably would be, it's not necessarily something that needs to be urgently done right now, but depending on how that election goes, it'd be wise to review the charter with that change in mind to see if there are other areas that would then need to be corrected to fit.
Yeah, there's a bunch of questions from a bunch of people about the vacancies, about sitting council members voting and running for mayor and seats, and there's all kinds of variables that we could encounter. So I think we could focus on a lot of other things, and then we can come back to that for sure.
So if there's no further discussion for tonight, I would at least like to get our next meeting set, just so staff knows how much time they have to prepare, and so you all have it on your calendar. So looking back at the doodle poll, which thank you all for responding to that, the next 3 dates I saw that worked for either everyone or the vast majority were April 15th, which obviously is in only 2 weeks, May 6th or May 7th. So if I could just let me know if any of those don't work.
I personally would like to see things on a normal day schedule. I mean,
Okay.
Tuesdays currently for me work great. I don't know about anybody else on the committee.
So
But-
Tuesdays, every other Tuesday we have council, so Tuesdays
Yeah.
are tough.
Right. I mean, I'm looking for more of a consistency, whether
Okay.
it's a Tuesday, a Thursday,
I will tell you based on the doodle poll that would be challenging.
Yeah.
But
it
Can
would
we-
give me time to plan ahead and,
Totally
and
understand.
reschedule and move some other stuff to allow.
okay, so can we would May 6th, which is a Tuesday, work for everyone for now, and then I'll go back and see if we can get us lined up on a more regular schedule.
It works for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Great.
And again, I'm not opposed to any other day. It's just if I know ahead, then I can move stuff around.
Okay.
May 6th it is, I guess.
5:30.
Yes. And I'll send out another calendar invitation.
Any other topics or discussions or grievances?
My question would be is, how deep do we go want to go into anything right now? Because, having spent a great deal of time going through it myself, I'm ready to discuss all manner of things, but, I don't want to do that if the rest of the committee is not at that point yet, because, like I say, maybe staff could send out my notes to the rest of the committee, also the things that I found, because, certainly there's a lot of things that I probably missed too, because it is clear that we've lived with the charter the way it is right now and haven't noticed the conflicts or haven't noticed them enough to feel that they needed to be addressed, where based on, things that I'm experienced with in my life, is the best thing to do is to have everything as clear and concise and absolute as necessary, because what we do is avoid problems in the future by doing so.
One thing I'll add also, I think I was the only staff member that was present at the last time we had a charter review committee. That committee met for a while and came to they only agreed on one change that they would like to see made, but they didn't think that it was enough of a change to warrant paying for an election. So I will tell you what that was, and that was there is a provision in the charter that requires all ordinances to be read out loud in their entirety. And that was seen as a bit of a burden. But and having been a staff member at a 7.5 hour council meeting because of our code had to be read entirely out loud, it can be a burden. But that's something for you to consider as well as to whether that change should also be considered. But I also just wanted to put myself at your disposal if you have. I just emailed the materials for Robert's Rules of Order to all of you. Feel free to email me with any questions, but also if the committee as a whole has items that they would like to see researched, that's one of the things I'm here for.
I do have one other question, keeping with the same thing that we've been discussing on changes. If we do recommend changes, if let's say that we had up to 15 changes that we recommended to City Council, just so that I am clear, is that going to be 15 different ballot titles, or there's some that can be condensed, like when it comes to housekeeping things and like that? I mean, because still, even if it's housekeeping, pretty much the whole thing's got to be on the ballot so that people can read it to see what those housekeeping, what we're changing. And so just if you could elaborate on that process as to how complicated that becomes.
So it's something that I need to research a bit more. However, I will say that there's a couple of things to consider as you're putting things on the ballot. If they're reasonably related to each other, then they should be included in the same item. However, it's arguable that any change to the charter is related to other changes in the charter. You could have, I believe, and I need to confirm this, but I believe you can have a one ballot item that just is everything. The risk you run when doing that is, well, you might get no changes at all, because everybody will be like, well, I'm not voting for that. That's a lot of changes. And by breaking it up into multiple ballot questions, you might have the success of, you might have more success in something getting passed. That's just not a legal item. That's just a, pragmatically something that should be considered. But there is state law does govern how ballot titles are written and how things are placed on ballots. And so I would need to do some research to make sure that you can put it together the way you recommend. And the way the council, if the council, of course, chooses to act on your recommendation.
Any further discussion? I guess I'll adjourn this meeting and we'll do it next time.
Huzzah.
Gary.